20 years of dust. One buzzing neon wren. Exactly 732.14 left in Emma Rosefield's account. That's all her father's will delivers when it drops a single brass key into her palm. The Blue Wren Café crouches on Maplewick-on-Trent's High Street like a tired boxer. Roof leaking, signs sparking, reputation a punchline at the pub. Estate agents whisper, "Tear down." Developers push checks across scratched tables. Bookies in the King's Arms lay odds she'll fold before Easter. Emma ignores every wager. She unlocks the warped door, inhales burnt bean air and rain-soaked plaster, and traces her late mum's faded chalk notes still clinging to the menu board. Kindness is rocket fuel for miracles. The till drawer holds just enough coins to jingle. The ceiling fan wobbles like a nervous seagull. Only one regular retired postman, Mr. Blake, sits waiting, tea bag all ready in his chipped mug. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your flag emoji in the comments, and when this story ends, rate Emma's odds from 0 to 10. Outside, a black SUV idles longer than traffic allows. A man with gold cufflinks studies the cafe's cracked brickwork, measuring every inch as if it hides treasure. Emma notices, and that's when the true story begins. The sun clears Maplewick's low ridge at 7:08 a.m., and as if on cue, High Street begins its daily comedy routine. The first laugh belongs to Trevor McBride, the taxi driver who considers himself town commentator. He idles opposite the Blue Wren Café, elbow on his open window, voice wound up like a fairground horn. "Morning, MBA girl," he shouts as Emma Rosefield kneels to unlatch the cafe's rust-scarred shutters. "Come to polish your bankruptcy sign?" The two pensioners sharing a doorway newspaper cackle on cue. Emma pretends not to hear. She lifts the timber panel, shoulders it into place, and catches a waft of yesterday's espresso mingled with damp plaster. The smell is equal parts failure and stubborn sweetness. She holds it in her lungs for 3 measured beats, the way athletes take air before a race. Behind her, the Blue Wren's crooked neon bird blinks awake. 2 flashes, 1 fizz. Silence. It looks like hope trying Morse code. Ravi Acharya appears, jogging across the street with a cardboard tray of discount pastries and steam still curling from his takeaway cup. He's 22, wiry, and permanently 1 tuition payment away from losing his student visa. "Morning, boss," he says. "Guess what flavor of regret we've scored today? Blueberry or mixed accident?" "Surprise me." Emma stands, wipes mortar dust from her knees, and steps aside so he can duck through the door. Inside the cafe is a museum of almosts. A brass till that rings even when empty, mismatched chairs rescued from skip piles, a marble counter chipped like a milk tooth. Above the chalkboard menu, someone once drew a wren in flight. Now only its tail remains, a blue brushstroke fading into beige wall. They begin the opening dance. Ravi clamps a bucket beneath the espresso machine's slow leak. Emma lays out yesterday's croissants, carves the green mold off the edges, and decides that rectangles are this morning's pastry shape. Outside, laughter ricochets again. 2 teenagers filming a video titled "Britain's Ugliest Coffee Shop, Rachel Crumble Wren." They slap high fives when the shutter stutters halfway open. Emma flips the chalkboard to face the street. Toasties 320, hope-free. The chalk snaps in her fingers. The H smears. She smears it into a bolder stroke. Why not? The bell above the door jingles its first reluctant chime. Mr. Blake, retired postman, daily customer, honorary furniture shuffles in. He taps the brim of an invisible cap. "Refill, Miss Rosefield. Same mug, same price. Inflation can go whistle." She rinses his cracked ceramic mug, drops in yesterday's tea bag, pours fresh water to hide the crime. Mr. Blake settles in the corner booth. Locals call Parliament because gossip laws are passed there hourly. "So," he says, stirring the phantom tea, "odds in the King's Arms now say you'll close by Valentine's Day. I made it a $5 you'll last till Easter." A vote of confidence. A vote of entertainment, really. Emma grins because grinning is cheaper than renovations. She wipes tables, counts chairs. 14, one with only 3 legs, and rehearses her opening line for customers who might never come. Morning. What can I get you apart from shocked? At 9:02, the front door judders open again. 2 teenage girls shuffle inside, phones held high. They circle the counter like amateur documentarians, filming stains, cracked tiles. Her face. One whispers loud enough for subtitles. Aesthetic but like. Derelict aesthetic. Emma leans across the counter. You can tag us Blue Wren Café. Make sure to spell Wren with a capital WCO likes capitals. She smiles so brightly they scurry out without buying a thing. The door bangs shut. Laughter outside. Ravi pretends to check milk temperature. Fame costs, boss. So does paint. She lifts her eyes to the ceiling. The fan spins half a turn and stops, then judders again as if embarrassed. Speaking of costs, we're at minus 24 pounds for the morning. Plus 2 views on TikTok, Ravi offers. Exposure is currency in some economies. He glances at his phone. Weird. Grant and Bray Developments just posted drone footage of High Street. Probably another marketing teaser for their luxury flats. Emma's stomach knots. Remembers the low offer letter she ignored last week. She glides to the window. Across the street, a man in a camel overcoat tailored, immaculate lifts a smartphone to film the facade. He carries a silver-tipped umbrella, although the sky is bright. The umbrella handle gleams like authority. He notes measurements in a leather notebook. She knows his face from property leaflets, Oliver Grant. He catches her watching, offers a polite half-smile, then crosses something out with swift, precise pen strokes. She lets the curtain fall back into place. Developer? Ravi asks. Vulture, Emma replies. She walks to the counter, flips open the ledger that passes for accounts. £7.40 in coins, 3 IOUs written on napkins, 2 from the art teacher, 1 from herself. The bell rings again. Trevor McBride steps inside holding a glossy pamphlet. The paper smells of expensive ink. He taps it on the counter. He heard you like reading, he says. Figured I'd deliver. The pamphlet shows a digital rendering. Blue Wren Residences, 18 boutique flats, ground floor espresso bar, heritage-inspired, rooftop garden for mindful living. Beneath the image sits a line of gold serif text. Completion 2026, subject to acquisition. Emma shuts the pamphlet like a sprung trap. Thanks for the literature. No bother. I get £5 for each one I hand out. Trevor glances around. Mind if I use your loo? Out of order. Figures. He leaves laughing without humor, the doorbell mocking her with a tinny farewell. Ravi watches her shoulders stiffen. We still on for tonight's story slam? Of course, she answers, though chairs amount to 13.5 and the microphone is a hairbrush duct taped to a radio. At 10:30, the ceiling leaks. Not a drip, an ambitious gush that splashes directly into the sugar bowl. Emma snatches the bowl, tips water onto the already warped floorboards, and laughs at the absurdity. Mr. Blake claps. Character, he declares. Buildings need it. Leaks add narrative tension. Does narrative tension pay for plaster? Not yet, love. But when the memoir sells, I'll buy 20 toasties. She bows. Hold me to it. 11 o'clock. Somewhere outside, a church bell tolls. Emma drags a stepladder beneath the rogue ceiling tile, climbs 3 rungs, and eyes the small brown pond forming in plaster. She jabs a screwdriver into it. Water gushes, drenching her apron, her hair. Outside, Trevor honks in applause. She climbs down, drenched. Ravi hands her a towel smelling faintly of detergent and persistence. She towels her hair, squeezes water from the ends like wringing out resignation. Noon's coming, he says. We could close early, call it strategic retreat. Or, she counters, we could make coffee for whoever isn't laughing. The bell tings again. A woman with paint-flecked jeans and an armful of sketch pads steps in. Nadine Pryor, art teacher at Maplewick Comprehensive. She surveys the chaos, the puddle, Emma's dripping bangs. Heard you're running a story slam, she says. My students need a mural project. Thought they might paint your exterior. Emma blinks water off her eyelashes. You want to paint the town's punchline? Exactly. Nadine sets sketch pads on the table, flipping to pages of bold blue birds unfurling into abstract feathers. We'll supply labor and color. You just supply walls. Emma laughs, the sound startling in the quiet. Deal. Payment is toasties and narrative tension. Nadine beams. I adore tension. As she leaves, she passes Oliver Grant entering. She hawks out, good luck, to Emma in a stage whisper. Grant's cologne arrives first. Citrus and expensive risk. He ignores the puddle, the bucket, Robbie's raised eyebrow. He sets a lacquered folder on the counter, opens it like a jeweler showing diamonds. Inside, contract, offer price $120,000, completion in 4 weeks. Emma lifts one sheet. Paper thickness implies inevitability. I can relieve you of this burden, he says, voice soft as silk pulled over steel. You walk away solvent. The council signs off on demolition. We repurpose. Everyone wins. Emma closes the folder gently. Everyone? Or you? Our investors certainly, but you most of all. This building is irreparable. Behind him, Mr. Blake clears his throat theatrically. Grant doesn't turn. Ravi speaks. We're busy just now. Grant glances at the bucket again, water plinking a Morse code of despair. He slides a silver pen toward Emma. You have until Friday, he says. After that, we approach the council for compulsory purchase on health and safety grounds. He exits, umbrella tip clicking like a metronome of finality. Emma stares at the pen, then at the folder, then at water pooling round her shoes. She remembers her mother's chalked line, kindness is rocket fuel for miracles and wonders, whether miracles require roofs. Ravi breaks the silence. You know how stories work. Act 1 ends when the hero refuses the easy way out. She squeezes water from her sleeve. Then let's make our refusal memorable. She picks up the silver pen, slaps it upright in the pastry display like a museum piece, and flips the chalkboard to the street again. Under Toasties 320, she adds tonight 7 p.m. Story slam, theme treasure in unexpected places. Trevor walks past, slows to read the board and snorts. Emma catches his eye, smiles with teeth this time. Free coffee for the best punchline, she calls through the open door. He hesitates, almost smiles back. Inside, the fan groans into motion all by itself, one full, confident rotation. The neon wren on the window flickers, then steadies to a solid cobalt glow. Under its light, puddles shine like small, stubborn galaxies, waiting for someone to see constellations instead of stains. Morning rain arrives without apology, needling the blue wren's windows and pooling on the uneven pavement outside. Emma wipes condensation off the front glass with a tea towel that still smells faintly of lemon polish. Inside, the cafe breathes a sleepy, burnt coffee warmth, while the neon bird in the window stutters through its first blue pulse of the day. At precisely 8:07 a.m., a black Jaguar glides to the curb, low and certain, like a shark nosing along shallow water. The door opens and Oliver Grant steps onto the wet street in a charcoal coat that turns raindrops into beads of silver. Behind him walks Elise Morgan, his solicitor umbrella angled, heels clicking out a lawyer's metronome. Emma rests the towel on the counter and exhales. Round 2, she whispers. Grant pushes through the door. The bell rings an almost startled note. He surveys the room, the bucket beneath the espresso machine catching its steady drip, the mismatched tables, the single customer, Mr. Blake sipping weak tea beneath the newspaper crime section. A smile as thin as gold leaf appears on Grant's lips. Miss Rosefield, he says, placing a leather folder on the counter. I'm impressed you're still open. Coffee helps, Emma replies. Elise lays the folder flat, sliding it half an inch forward like a chess piece. Our revised proposal, 5-day acceptance, exchange of contracts on the 6th, all legal fees covered by Grant and Bray. Emma flips the cover. A rendering shows the cafe replaced by blue wren residences. 18 luxury flats, rooftop herb garden, ground floor espresso bar labeled heritage inspired. Beneath the image sits a price, $175. Ravi emerges from the back carrying 2 croissants and a mug of foamed milk. He sees the folder and raises one eyebrow. Flat white? He offers Grant. Grant waves the notion aside. Caffeine clouds judgment. Emma closes the folder gently. You've upped the offer. You're bleeding cash, Grant says, tone velvet soft. Take it before the council slaps a demolition order on your foundation. My engineers filed their report this morning. Structural integrity? Questionable at best? The front door opens again. Rain gusts in with Trevor the taxi driver, damp cap in hand. Trevor stops short, eyes flicking between Grant's expensive coat and Emma's resigned posture. He senses story fuel and quietly takes a seat near the window. Elise slides a silver fountain pen across the counter, its clip engraved OG. Sign and you walk away solvent. You could start a marketing company in London, maybe run a seaside cafe with actual tourists. Mr. Blake coughs pointedly from his booth. Her war's here, not in some seaside bun shop, he mutters. Grant's gaze flicks toward the old postman, then returns to Emma. 5 days, he repeats. After that, compulsory purchase on safety grounds. Council works quickly when public risk is involved. Emma feels the weight of that silver pen. The leak in the ceiling drips another rhythmless note into the bucket. Rain taps the windows as if urging her to hurry. She thinks of her grandfather's ledger, of old promises written in fading pencil. She nudges the pen back with one fingertip. I'll think about it. Grant's smile widens a millimeter, victory thin. Do, but think fast. He closes the folder, flicks a raindrop from his cuff, and leaves. Elise offers a polite nod, then follows. Outside, the Jaguar's door thuds shut, muffled by rain. Ravi releases the breath he's been holding. That man smells of expensive endings. Emma opens the till, $7.40 and a Canadian penny. We need more beginnings, she says. By 10 o'clock, the rain eases to a mist. Emma carries a tray of mugs upstairs to the attic. Ravi close behind with a torch and stubborn optimism. The attic smells of cedar and dust-damp paper. They search crates they ignored yesterday. Bent railway timetables, ration books, a tin of toffee long petrified. In a leather-bound ledger dated 1957, page 42 holds something new. A folded Crown Estate map stamped restricted. Emma's heart kicks. She unfolds it on an upturned crate. A narrow tunnel snakes beneath Magnolia Road, ending beneath one square labeled Area B Vault. In faint pencil, Blue Wren sits over vault, promise kept. Ravi runs a fingertip along the penciled words. Your grandfather wrote this? Looks like his hand. Emma's voice is soft, reverent. He never said a word. Thunder grumbles far off. She stares at the map until the station names blur. Something under their feet waits, perhaps for decades, perhaps for her. They lug the map downstairs and spread it on the counter. Mr. Blake sets his tea aside, peers at the ghost lines. Railway vaults, he says. Wartime storage. Heard tales of munitions, artwork, secret payrolls. Emma's mind races. Council condemnation. Grant's engineers. A vault no one knows. Or maybe someone does. The door swings open. Elise returns alone, umbrella closed, rainwater threading down her coat sleeves. Her expression looks less certain than before. Miss Rosefield, she says quietly, off-record Grant's deadline isn't about your roof. He's petitioning to rezone this block. If you refuse to sell, he needs evidence of structural danger. Evidence he manufactures, Emma replies, tapping the map. Elise's gaze falls on the crown stamp. Where did you get that? Family attic. Same place I found my stubborn streak. Elise hesitates. Grant's scheduling a surveyor for tomorrow. Structural cameras, moisture probes, the works. If they find anything suspicious under your floor, anything unregistered, the council can seize it before you lay claim. Ravi closes the ledger. So we find it first. Elise lowers her voice. Be careful. I haven't forgotten the law. I just changed sides. She slips out, leaving the scent of bergamot and misgivings. Afternoon clouds bruise purple. Emma locks the door early, flips chairs, and leads Robbie to the cellar. The single bulb sputters gloom over damp stone. Against one wall, a section of brick looks newer mortar pale, surfaces too smooth. Emma presses her palm to it. Cold air slips between bricks like a whisper. Robbie hands her a hammer. You swing, I sweep. She lifts the hammer, heart drumming. One blow, brick chips fly. Second blow, mortar cracks like dry parchment. A fist-sized gap opens, breathing out air that smells of coal dust and lavender oil. Lantern light reveals a concrete tunnel beyond, wide enough for a handcart. They crawl through. Lantern glow dances across teal crates stacked against one wall. 1945, NG stenciled in white. Emma pries a lid. Straw, then porcelain glints, a Fabergé bird the color of midnight seas, flawless. Robbie's breath hitches. Another crate, velvet pouches heavy with jewelry, silver filigree catching the trembling light. But what steals Emma's breath rests upright against the far wall, a cylinder of oiled canvas tied with twine. She unties it, unrolls carefully. An alpine bridge, violet dawn sky, signature in crisp corner letters, E. Gruber, 1911, Lost Crossing. Ravi whispers, 30 to 50 million, maybe more. Water drips somewhere in the dark. Emma's hands shake, but resolve steadies her spine. We need authentication, insurance, everything. Footsteps echo overhead, boots multiple. Surveyors or Grant's men? Lantern off. They freeze listening. Boards creak, muffled voices discuss fresh brickwork. Emma's pulse thrums in her ears. After tense minutes, the voices retreat. A door slams. They reseal the tunnel entrance from inside as best they can, stacking crates to hide the gap. Back upstairs, Emma locks doors, draws curtains. Rain starts again, soft and steady, but her mind roars with possibilities. At midnight, she sits at the counter, the crown map before her, silver pen standing upright under the pastry dome like a tiny, glinting ultimatum. She writes a single sentence on a scrap of receipt paper. Value often hides one brick wall away. Outside, the Jaguar idles once more, exhaust swirling with rain mist. Grant peers through the windshield at the dark cafe. Inside, Emma meets his gaze across wet glass. Neither blinks. The game has changed and only one of them knows how much. The Jaguar pulls off into the rain-blurred night. Emma turns the silver pen horizontal, snaps the cap on. Tomorrow, she thinks. London. Authentication. Experts. Headlines or demolitions and secrets lost. 5 days just became one. Upstairs, thunder cracks. Downstairs, the tunnel waits patient, ancient, alive with unspent stories. The attic hatch groans like an old lung every time Emma pushes it open, but tonight its complaint feels louder, almost theatrical. Rain needles the slates overhead. Each drop is a pin on a snare drum. Robbie stands on the stepladder below, flashlight in his teeth, trying to control the beam and the shiver in his voice at the same time. Why do attics always smell like someone else's memories? He mumbles around the metal torch casing. Because that's exactly what they are, Emma answers, swinging herself onto the joist. Planks flex under her boots. The space is a low-roofed museum of household geology. Sedimentary layers of tea chests, biscuit tins, and damp cardboard suitcases. In the nearest corner, a child-sized rocking horse watches them with one painted eye. Emma's own memories ricochet summer hide-and-seek games, her father balancing on these same beams, handing down Christmas baubles like contraband jewels. She shakes off the moment and starts opening boxes. They work by flashlight and phone screen, coughing on dust older than color television. First trunk, ration books, mold-soft blankets, A cracked mirror. Second trunk. Ledgers, hundreds cornflour deliveries, tea imports, Guinness kegs tallied in penciled columns by someone who believed neat figures held the universe together. Ravi flips one volume randomly. 1952, sugar still on ration, but your granddad lists 40 kilos. Black market? More likely he swapped jam for favors, Emma says. He was generous when the paperwork let him. A sudden gust rattles the skylight. Ravi aims the beam upwards and grit rains down. We should hurry, he says. Roof sounds itchy. Emma nods and slides her fingers along the attic floor until they snag on a leather spine different from the rest, smaller, darker, burned at one corner. She kneels. The book is no thicker than her thumb, tied shut with a shoelace. A rust-colored tag dangles from the binding, ending NG. Private. Beside the knot, one word, promise. The smell changes the instant she unties the lace, a faint whiff of machine oil and lavender sachets. She opens the cover. Inside, neat copper plate dated 1945, ledger of Vault Area B, Blue Wren. First entry, 17th of March 45. Crate 1, porcelain, Fabergé subsidiary, not to be inventoried until cessation order lifted. Emma's pulse skitters. She flips faster. Crates 2 through 30 list jewelry, silverware, one painting, Gruber 1911, Alpine Bridge, and far beneath a single line underlined twice, map enclosed. Public release, never. At the back pocket lies a waxed canvas envelope, edges brittle. She holds her breath and pulls a folded sheet into the torch beam. Ravi steadies the light. Root lines bloom across the paper-thin, black, almost surgical. They sketch a tunnel that begins beneath the cafe cellar, angles under Magnolia Road, ends in a shaded rectangle marked Vault. Stamped in purple ink, Crown Estate, Restricted Rail Storage, Wartime Emergency Act 1941. Ravi exhales a silent whistle. Your family was sitting on a government secrets. Emma doesn't answer. She's busy reading the marginalia penciled in, a hurried slant. Blue Wren sits over Area B Vault. Promise kept. For Emma's grandmother, tell no one until safe. She almost drops the map. My grandmother's name is in here, but this is her handwriting. Memories flood Gran, whispering about gifts that wait for the right ears. Bedtime stories of evacuee trains rattling under the town. Emma steadies herself. They hid something here, and they meant me to find it. Down below, the cafe is closed and dark, but a glow from High Street filters through the cracked skylight. That glow flickers, headlights turning into the lane. Ravi peeks through the dust-coated pane. Black SUV again. Emma tucks the ledger under her jumper and folds the map into her coat pocket. Then we go now. They descend, carrying only the mysterious book and Ravi's torch. In the kitchen, they wipe footprints from the worktops. Habit or paranoia, she isn't sure. The ledger almost hums in her hands like a warm battery of history. She wants to read every page, but the cellar calls. They cross the dining room, past chairs stacked for tomorrow and Mr. Blake's forgotten mug, and unlock the door under the stairs. The cellar air greets them with the chill of kept secrets. A single bulb throws a nervous cone of light onto sandstone walls. Emma kneels by the newer brick arch at the far end, 15 bricks across, 10 down, mortar paler than Victorian gray. She presses her ear to it. A faint hiss whispers back air currents, or maybe imagination. Ravi raises the hammer he grabbed from maintenance. Which one first? She taps near the center, feels hollowness vibrate. Here, first strike, mortar fractures like old pastry. Second strike, brick loosens, revealing darkness beyond. Cold air exhales, carrying sense of coal dust and something floral, not lavender of potpourri, but the faded memory of a perfume. They widen the hole brick by brick until a crawl space appears. Emma ducks through, lantern ahead. The tunnel is surprisingly neat. Concrete walls, ceiling arched in dull gray. WT engineering at its most urgent. Metal tags hang every few meters. Emergency supply, route north. Railway spur, Ravi whispers, echo bouncing. They must have slid crates on trolleys. His phone torch floats across teal wooden boxes, stacked shoulder-high along the left wall. Stenciled letters, 1945 NG. Numbers follow 1, 2, 3 up to 30. Emma opens crate 1 with trembling fingers. Straw rustles. Inside, a porcelain figurine the size of a fist, enamel blues swirling like storm tides. At its base, Fabergé Petersburg, 1913. Crate 2 reveals velvet jewelry, rolls brooches, cigarette cases, a tiara of seed pearls still perfect under dust. Ravi swears softly, equal parts reverence and disbelief. This lot would bankroll the crown twice. Emma crouches at crate 5. The straw-parted canvas cylinder appears. Heart banging, she unties the string and unrolls. Oil-painted mountains, violet dawn, a wooden bridge crossing a silver river. Signature bottom right, E. Gruber 1911. She presses a hand to her mouth. Lost Crossing, Ravi breathes, naming the wartime missing masterpiece. A muffled clatter breaks the awe. He kills the torch. They freeze. Through the newly made hole, they hear floorboards creaking upstairs. Voices, 2 men, maybe 3, hushed but urgent. Survey marks right fresh mortar. Another voice. Grant wants photos tonight. Council report goes in tomorrow. Emma's limbs go ice cold. Oliver Grant hadn't left things to chance. Ravi catches her eye and mouths, hide. They push the canvas roll back, replace crate lids, and retreat deeper down the tunnel, past shadowed corners where no flashlight beam can glance. Emma reaches a junction where a maintenance door stands ajar. They slip inside and shut it just as footsteps clank in the tunnel proper. Light sweeps the walls. A man mutters about unregistered alterations. Another says, sell the bloody Café or bury her in lawsuits. Through a crack, Emma watches them photograph the crates, snap shots of their hammer hole, whisper about valuations. One lifts the Gruber canvas, unaware of its gravity. He shines phone light, curses admiration. Old man Grant will drool. Minutes feel like decades before the intruders finally retreat. Light fading back toward the cellar steps. The door upstairs slams. Silence returns, heavy as groundwater. Emma lets out breath she didn't know remained. Ravi leans against the concrete, wiping sweat. They saw everything. Not everything, she replies, pulling the ledger from her jumper. They don't have provenance. She opens to the first page and photographs it with her phone, then the map pocket, each entry. Backup flies to cloud storage instantly. They emerge, reseal crates as best as speed allows, and crawl back into the cellar. Ravi remortars the bricks with a pre-mixed tub he grabs from the shelf, smearing it rough so it matches the hurried Wadi Put style. Upstairs, they wipe dust trails, replace the loose boards. Emma flicks the cafe lights on as if preparing for opening, just in case anyone peers through windows. At 3 a.m., exhaustion claims them at the counter. Emma sets the ledger down between 2 chip saucers, opens to page 1, and reads aloud lines written 80 years earlier. If someone you love finds this book, know that kindness kept it safe. Let kindness decide its future. She strokes the faded ink. I think Granddad just handed us a war chest. Ravi yawns. Question is, war against whom? Grant? Or 20 headlines worth of opportunists? Emma ponders the map again. Tunnels, valuables, legal nightmares. She looks at the ledger tag. Promise, and feels the weight of those 7 letters. She takes a scrap of receipt paper and writes, value often hides 1 brick wall away, keep looking. Dawn nudges the skylight gray-blue. She sticks the note on the espresso machine. Outside, birds start gossiping. Somewhere in town, a developer sharpens lawsuits, but under the blue wren, a secret has already chosen its side. Emma whispers, London first. Verification, insurance, the works. Ravi rubs his eyes. And after London? She smiles tiredly. After London, we decide who deserves miracles. The neon wren in the window flickers on without being asked. Steady cobalt, no stutter. In its glow, the ledger's cover gleams like a freshly minted coin, and the map underneath seems to breathe. a heartbeat of paper waiting for its next move. A single fluorescent halo glows behind the cafe's frosted front door as Thursday drifts toward dead-hour silence. High Street is empty. No taxis idling for gossip, no teenagers filming derelict facades, only ochre street lamps and the wind shoving empty crisp packets along the gutter. Inside the Blue Wren, Emma stands on a wooden crate in the middle of the dining room, rolling duct tape around the last flashlight. "Batteries?" she asks. Ravi shakes a blister pack. "Fresh and overpriced. My student loan thanks you for the splurge." He snaps two into the torch and flicks it on. A circle of light crawls across chairs stacked like drunken giraffes. They have been waiting for 2 a.m. to slip past. Grant's surveyors left Maplewick at midnight. The Heritage Trust volunteer posted outside saw their van trundle toward the motorway. The council inspector won't return before Monday. Tonight belongs to curiosity and a hammer. Emma checks her phone. Order 257. She pockets it and nods toward the cellar door. Down the narrow stairs they move Emma, carrying the flashlight. Ravi a small sledge, each step creaking traitorously. The cellar's dangling bulb throws yellow cones over dusty wine racks and flower bins. Damp breeze from the stones. The temperature drops as though they've stepped into a different season. The patch of newer brick is obvious now that they know to look for it. 30 blocks arched into a horseshoe, mortar paler, smoother, hastier. Emma palms the surface. Cold radiates through her skin. "You sure?" Ravi whispers, voice bouncing off low beams. "If I start thinking, we'll never swing." She hands him the torch and lifts the hammer. First strike clang. The sound is shockingly loud. Dust explodes, tasting of iron filings. Second strike crack, mortar spiders. They pause, listening, nothing but their breath. Emma wedges the claw under a brick and pries. The block slides free, revealing darkness beyond. A void with a stale gust that smells of coal smoke and lavender talc. She shivers, not from chill, but anticipation. "A tunnel," Ravi breathes. Brick by brick, they widen the mouth until a person can stoop through. Emma slips first, flashlight spearing the void. The air inside is drier, cooler, and unnaturally still. The beam reveals concrete walls curving overhead, wartime engineering rails embedded in the floor for trolleys long since rusted away. 10 meters in, teal-painted crates stand like soldiers against the left wall, stacked 3 high. Stencils, 1945, NG, each bears a number. Crate Aero 1, Crate Aero 2, up to 30. Ravi whistles low. Emma lays the torch on a crate lid, unties her scarf, winds it round her nose against dust, then grips the top board. Nails squeal but release. She parts straw bedding. Something glints. A porcelain bird, cobalt glaze deep as midnight, wings tipped in gilt. She lifts it carefully. Under the torch it glows. On the underside, Fabergé Petersburg, 1913, Ravi's grin fights gravity. "You're holding a year of tuition, maybe 3. She returns it to its straw nest, replaces the lid, breath steady. "We document first, celebrate later." 2 crates along, Ravi finds velvet rolls. He unfastens one. Jewelry hair combs set with moonstones, cigarette cases patterned in silver vines, cufflinks shaped like chestnuts. Items unique enough that black market sale would be suicide. Good. Fewer chances they've been trafficked already. At the far end of the stack, a long oiled linen cylinder rests upright. Emma unties its leather thong. Canvas unfurls across 2 crate tops. The flashlight skates over thick impasto strokes, violet mountain sky, pine bridge spanning glacial water. Signature lower right, E. Gruber, 1911. Ravi's whisper breaks on awe. "Lost Crossing, Sotheby's Rumor City, 40 million?" Emma's throat is tight. She forces air past it. "Or 50, depends on provenance." A sound kills the reverie. The cellar door upstairs screeching open. They extinguish the torch. Darkness seals them in. Only the faintest bar of yellow slips through the brick gap. Boots descend, 2 sets. Slow, purposeful. Voices male. Survey tapes here, fresh mortar too, one says. Emma's heart thunders. She motions. Stay still. She can hear Robbie counting silent beats to calm his pulse. Through a finger-wide chink between bricks, they see torchlight flick along cellar walls. A crowbar clangs against an iron barrel. This is it, second voice says. Grant will pay double if we prove a chamber. Emma mouths. Phones. They switch their mobiles to record. Lenses pressed to the gap, capturing silhouettes. Voices. Trespass. Outside the tunnel, the men tap bricks. The tool hits their patch-hollow echo. Here, a chisel bites mortar. Dust puffs inward. Robbie squeezes Emma's arm. Her mind races. If the wall comes down fully, Grant's men see crates. They claim theft, call police. Twist narrative. She leans to his ear. Diversion. Robbie nods, scans tunnel. 10 meters back, a rusted handcart leans against wall. He creeps, wheels protesting faintly. He finds an old iron coupling the size of a grapefruit. Returns, sets it on rail track, balanced. Emma taps the map of town in her memory, counts the angles. If she can create a tremor loud enough. She lifts the coupling head high and lets it drop. It hits the rail with a cannon's report, echoes down tunnel like artillery. Upstairs, the intruders curse. One shines his torch through the widening hole. Something moved! Robbie throws the coupling again farther. Echo bounces, implies depth, maybe peril. First man. This is bigger than a stash. Could be collapse. I'm not dying down here. Second man hesitates, bricks half pride, greed warring with fear. First man again. We saw enough. Photos will do. Let Grant send proper crew. Footsteps retreat. Bricks clatter back into place. A voice swears about nails catching jacket. Boots up steps. Cellar door slams. Dark returns. Emma and Robbie wait 30 breaths. When calm settles, they relight the torch. Dust floats like snow in the beam. The gap is larger now, fist-sized. Emma feels the fresh air swirl, bringing with it risk of detection. We need a better seal, Robbie says. They close the hole with loose bricks, smear emergency quick-set mortar borrowed from the busted espresso machine repair kit into joints, roughing it so it resembles 1940s handiwork. Robbie pats surface. From 5 feet away, just another ugly patch. Emma photographs everything crates, serial numbers, the painting, the wall before and after, patch timestamps with GPS. No more visitors tonight, she whispers. But we can't risk them beating us to authentication again. Robbie lifts crate lids quietly, selects one porcelain bird. Sample without giving away scale. Enough to prove provenance. Emma nods. She rolls the Gruber painting tighter, slips it into its linen case, then adds the ledger and map to her backpack. They crawl back through the gap, replace final bricks, coat joints, brush dust over surface, then gather tools. Before climbing stairs, Emma turns off the cellar bulb. Darkness cloaks their work. Upstairs in the cafe, the neon wren still glows cobalt, ignorant of history birthing below. Clock on the wall reads 03:47. Emma feels like days have passed in 2 hours. In the kitchen sink, they wash dust from hands. Gray water swirls away evidence. Robbie makes instant coffee, 2 mugs, powdered milk, no ceremony. They sit on flour sacks in silence until caffeine warms courage. What time's the first train? He asks. 5:41, St. Pancras by 8. Sotheby's at 9 if we beg. We'll need insurance, transport tubes, nondescript luggage, and a story for border checks if they ask why 2 zombies carry a priceless canvas. Emma half smiles. Family heirloom restoration appointment. Not entirely untrue. She stands, stretches aching shoulders. Pack the bird in my camera bag. Painting and poster tube. She eyes the silver pen still upright in pastry case. We leave that here as a reminder. Before dawn, they wipe every footprint, restack chairs, mop dust trail to cellar. Emma glances at chalkboard. Toasties 320, hope free. She adds beneath, closed today, family business. Outside, sky pales to pearl. They step into morning carrying future disguised as luggage. Behind them, the blue wren sleeps above treasure no longer hidden, only waiting for legal daylight. At the corner, Robbie stops. When we come back, everything changes. Emma looks down High Street, empty but for gulls. Everything already did, she says, tightening her grip on the poster tube. They walk toward the station, leaving behind the hush of tunnels and the promise of history freshly awake. The train leaves Maplewick at 0541, slicing through dawn mist like a silver promise. Emma sits by the window with the poster tube laid across her knees and the porcelain wren wrapped in Ravi's scarf. Every time the wheels clatter over a joint, she checks the tube, then the scarf, then the tube again. Ravi sips instant coffee from a paper cup and murmurs statistics to calm them both. Travel time, 91 minutes. Likelihood of authentication above 80% given known Gruber brushwork. Projected hammer price, minimum $30 million. None of it lands. The only number Emma can hear is 5, the number of days Oliver Grant gave her before the council condemns the Blue Wren. London swallows them in wet light and diesel breath. At St. Pancras, they join the river of umbrellas. 2 minnows swimming against suits and weekend luggage. Ravi flags a black cab. Emma climbs in cautiously, as if the seat might judge her for carrying a fortune in cardboard. Sotheby's, New Bond Street, Ravi tells the driver. Lovely, the driver replies. Anything valuable in that tube? Sentimental, Emma answers. The cab weaves through traffic that feels louder than Maplewick on market day and stops before pillars of creamstone and brass lanterns. A receptionist with pearl earrings checks their names, then checks them again. A curator, Claire Belling, silver bob, white gloves, arrives with a smile precise enough to measure diamonds. Private viewing room is ready. Follow me, please. The room could fit the entire Blue Wren twice over. Soft parchment walls, mahogany table, 2 conservators waiting with microscopes, and a reverence usually reserved for fragile saints. Emma unscrews the tube cap with fingers that refuse to stay dry and slides the canvas free. The linen breathes out 50 years of tunnel darkness and unrolls onto padded foam. Mountains appear, then the violet dawn sky, then the wooden bridge crossing argent water. Bottom corner, E. Gruber nimmer servant Wunsen. One conservator inhales sharply. Claire leans in with a loop. Brushwork is confident, consistent. Varnish crackle matches pre-war formula. Emma's heartbeat registers on her tongue. Ravi fiddles with his glasses. 8 minutes of testing pigment fluorescence, infrared underdrawing, and Claire looks up. My initial opinion, authentic. I'd like the lab to confirm, but I'm comfortable saying 30 to 50 million at auction. Emma grips the table edge. The room tips, then rights itself. Claire moves to the porcelain wren. Fabergé subsidiary, yes, minor wear on the gilt. Beautiful piece. Ravi exhales as though he's been underwater. A junior assistant knocks, hands Claire a phone, whispers. Claire's professional serenity flickers. I'm afraid there's a complication, she says, lowering the phone. Grant and Bray Developments have filed an injunction. They claim subterranean rights over any artifacts found beneath a property they are in the process of acquiring. But they don't own the property, Emma says. Pending purchase agreements muddy the waters, Claire replies. Our legal team will need to pause certification until this is resolved. Ravi mutters a word unsuitable for galleries. Emma squares her shoulders. How long? Could be days, could be months. I'm very sorry. Outside, rain taps on brass lantern glass. Emma thanks Claire, arranges for temporary storage of the painting under Sotheby's custody, insured, sealed, inaccessible to Grant's lawyers, and steps into the street. Tube now empty, confidence more so. They walk under dripping awnings to a small cafe that smells of cardamom and printer ink. Ravi buys 2 macchiatos and slides into a booth. He's choking us with paperwork, he says. Emma shakes her head. No, he's betting we fear paperwork more than we value the cafe. She pulls Granddad's ledger from her satchel. The brittle page with the Crown Estate stamp. Beneath it, a folded parchment she almost missed yesterday. an addendum dated 1951 transferring all chattels and artifacts discovered within the confines of the Blue Wren premises to the proprietors in perpetuity. Council seal, crown signature, wax faded but unbroken. Robbie's eyes widen. That's our silver bullet. They scan it, email a copy to solicitor Anna Patel with the subject line, Perpetual Transfer Evidence Urgent. Anna replies within 10 minutes. Meet at Temple Chambers, 2 p.m. Bring the original. The rain thickens into needles. They duck into the underground. On the circle line, Emma rehearses her spine. Robbie counts stops like heartbeats. Temple Station, stone steps, a corridor that smells of old umbrellas and older arguments. Anna greets them with gentle ferocity. She skims the deed, flips back to the crown stamp, nods. This predates every mineral clause Grant can waive. We'll file an emergency motion. Judge Farrow is on duty. 3 p.m. Crown Court, oak paneling, stained glass. Journalists licking the air for headlines. Grant sits front row, Elise Morgan next to him, face unreadable. Emma catches Elise's eye. Something passes between them. Regret? Apology? A fuse blown in the wrong circuit? Grant rises first. His counsel cites structural danger, public safety, salvage law. Anna rises second. She places the deed on the clerk's desk. Per Crown Transfer Act 1951, Exhibit A, all artifacts belong to my client. She adds a notarized engineer's report declaring the cafe stable except for routine repairs. Judge Farrow studies the paper, traces the wax seal with one finger as though testing history's pulse. 10 minutes of legal organ music later, he delivers judgment. Injunction denied. All costs to Grant and Bray. Immediate return of any seized items. Grant's jaw flexes like a hinge stripped of screws. Elise closes her binder calmly, stands, whispers something Emma can't hear, and walks out, not toward Grant, but toward the corridor where press cameras wait. Outside flashes pop. A reporter asks Emma how it feels to own a national treasure. She says, feels like a roof no longer leaks. Another asks what 30 million tastes like. Espresso, slightly burnt, Robbie answers. Claire meets them on the steps with a sealed envelope. Lab results confirm pigment age, canvas threads, signature match 99%. It's him, she smiles. Congratulations. They celebrate with supermarket donuts on a bench beside the Thames. Wet icing, priceless view. Robbie crunches numbers aloud. After buyer's premium, conservator fees, VAT exemptions, net could approach 25 million. Emma stares at the river. Numbers large enough to fix every leak in Maplewick, she says, and pay every kindness forward. Evening train back north. They sit in first class because Robbie insists a future millionaire shouldn't ride standard when seats are empty. Emma dozes against the rattling window, dreaming of neon birds that no longer flicker. At Maplewick Station, half the town waits under umbrellas. Mr. Blake holds a placard. Welcome home, Miracle Magnet. Nadine, the art teacher, waves a paint-stained rag. Trevor, the taxi driver, offers a ride free of charge. Just this once, mind. Emma declines. She wants to walk the cobblestones. The blue wren glows down the street. Someone has replaced the blown fuse. The neon bird burns solid cobalt, no stutter. Inside, the bucket is gone, the leak patched with a temporary board bearing chalked letters. Courage made this ceiling hold. Emma unlocks the door. The cafe smells of possibility and stale sugar. She sets the porcelain wren in the front window where morning sun will find it. Ravi pins a photocopy of the court order beside the till. Emma writes a note on the chalkboard. Value often hides one brick wall away. Keep looking. She steps back, sees chalk dust on her fingers, thinks, paper victories are fine, but tomorrow the roof still needs a permanent fix. And tickets for 3 volunteers to London for the auction preview. and a community meeting about what 30 million means when divided by kindness. Ravi flicks the espresso switch. Steam hisses like a dragon tamed. Emma laughs suddenly, joy bursting through tired ribs. London tried to humiliate us, she says. Ravi hands her a cup. Turns out humiliation's expensive when you lose. She raises the cup toward the shadowed rafters. To roofs that don't leak, to art that waited, and to a town that just found its backbone. Outside, the neon bird flutters brighter than any star in the maple-wick sky. The Crown Court of Nottingham squats behind wrought iron gates like an enormous ink blot on the spring skyline. All soot-stained columns and gargoyles that appear to sneer at everyone who passes beneath. At 8:40 precisely, Emma Rosefield steps from a black cab, knees locking to keep the wobble from her stance. Ravi climbs out after her, clutching a battered document case that holds the ledger, the crown deed, and one porcelain wren cushioned in bubble wrap. A small storm of camera shutters clicks the moment Emma appears. Headlines have already dubbed today the 50 million cappuccino trial. Reporters bark questions. Miss Rosefield, did you forge the map? Is Oliver Grant just protecting public safety? She offers the tightest smile she owns and walks toward the doors that smell faintly of old varnish and fresh nerves. Inside, the main hall glitters. Stained glass skylight, marble underfoot, brass rail polished for the occasion. But the atmosphere is mud-thick, cloying, impossible to wash off. People have come for spectacle, not justice. Anna Patel meets them beneath a stone bust of Queen Victoria, tablet glowing in her hand. Judge Whitlock is on the bench, she says, voice crisp. He's old school, likes brevity, hates theatrics. The deed and engineer's report are our blades. Keep answers short and factual. Emma nods. Short and factual feels impossible when her heart is hammering paragraphs. They enter courtroom 2. Oak benches ripple with bodies business writers, property bloggers, 3 art historians, half of Maplewick's high street shop owners. Front row, polished to mirror brightness, sits Oliver Grant. Bespoke charcoal suit, teal silk tie, expression carved from the same granite as the courthouse steps. Beside him, his new queen on the chessboard barrister Malcolm Havers, QC, wig-powdered, smile predatory. Elise Morgan sits behind them, not at the counsel table. She offers Emma a pinched, apologetic shrug. Clerk calls the case Grant and Bray Developments versus Rosefield. The words echo off carved rafters like a starting gun. Havers rises first. My lord, public safety compels us to act. The Blue Wren Café teeters above an unreinforced void in illegal excavation undertaken by an amateur at 3 a.m. Hidden tunnels, crumbling brick, priceless artifacts stuffed beside leaking gas pipes. We seek an injunction to take possession, make the site secure, and preserve national heritage. He pivots smartly, aims a laser pointer at a screen. Thermal scans bloom red and yellow, exaggerated cracks glowing like lightning scars. Gasps flutter through the gallery. Ravi mutters under his breath about Photoshop saturation. Havers continues, gentle as a guillotine. Miss Rosefield's reckless behavior imperils Maplewick residents. She needs saving from herself. Anna Patel stands. No slides, no lasers. Just a single sheet of parchment folded neat as origami. My lord, this is the Crown Estate deed dated 2nd December 1951. It gifts any and all fixtures, voids, and chattels beneath the Blue Wren Café to the proprietors in perpetuity, in gratitude for wartime sustenance. The tunnel is not illegal, it is inherited. She hands the parchment to the usher, who delivers it to Judge Whitlock. The judge adjusts spectacles, studies wax seal, scratches a note. Authenticity confirmed by National Archives? Anna nods. So certified, my lord. She next produces the engineer's report Emma paid for with the last of her overdraft. Independent survey finds the structure stable. Roof and joists require repair works already contracted and funded by the forthcoming sale of art. No public hazard exists. Havers pops up. One surveyor does not negate photographic evidence of subsidence. Anna, photographs commissioned and paid for by the claimant, Unverified chain of custody. Havers, we have 2 additional experts prepared to testify. Judge Whitlock lifts a palm. We'll hear from them in due course. He turns to Emma. Miss Rosefield, stand, if you please. Pulse thudding, she rises. Yes, my lord? Do you acknowledge removing bricks and entering a wartime tunnel without permit? I do, my lord. Why not inform authorities first? She swallows. Because I feared the contents would disappear before public benefit could be secured. A ripple of whispers. I filmed everything, cataloged crates, and transferred the artwork to Sotheby's under bonded insurance. Proceeds are earmarked for structural restoration, scholarships, and our town library roof. Havers objects. Self-serving promises cannot override statutory safety. Judge Whitlock waves him down. Sit. He focuses on Emma again. Are you willing to place sales proceeds in an escrow supervised by the court? Yes, my lord. A soft O moves through the benches, Grant's supporters deflating. Grant himself presses lips thin enough to cut. Now Anna calls her first witness, Elise Morgan. The gallery stirs. Elise walks to the stand, oath sworn. Anna asks, Ms. Morgan, were you instructed by Mr. Grant to draft emergency condemnation notices before any structural report existed? Elise's throat works. Grant stares holes through her. Yes, she says, voice brittle. He anticipated a forced sale. Havers leaps. Relevance, my lord? Goes to claimant's motive, Anna answers. The judge nods. Overruled. Anna, did Mr. Grant discuss the possibility of valuable artifacts prior to his safety concerns? A single tear of sweat trickles down Grant's temple. Elise answers. Yes, he believed the tunnel might house items worth millions and wanted swift acquisition. Murmurs ripple higher. Someone at the back hisses, Vulture! Whitlock raps gavel once. Order. Grant's turn. His QC calls structural engineer Dr. Dedham A. Mann, with spectacles like frosted bathroom glass. Dedham testifies that moisture readings show imminent risk of vault collapse. Anna cross-examines, who paid your invoice? After hesitation, Grant and Bray, how many beams did you inspect? One accessible. Laughter rustles. Whitlock scolds the room. Another claimant witness, an art conservator, warns that amateurs could drop a crate and shatter national heritage. Anna counters by submitting Sotheby's custody receipt. Conservator sheepishly concedes that bonded transport under expert supervision is acceptable protocol. At noon, the court breaks for lunch. Emma retreats to a window alcove that smells of sun-warmed dust. Ravi paces, muttering decimal probabilities. Anna texts furiously with council clerks. Across the hall, Grant confers with Havers, gesturing like a man swatting invisible bees. Elise approaches Emma. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I quit this morning. Emma nods, words snagged behind gratitude and exhaustion. Elise squeezes her hand, then disappears down a corridor. Lighter. Back in session, Havers strides into his finale. He raises a glossy digital mock-up on screen. Blue Wren Residences revised. My client offers to purchase for $350,000, preserve the tunnel as a museum wing, and allocate 10% of profits to community grants. He turns to the judge. A professional developer versus a hobbyist barista. My lord, the choice is self-evident. The judge grunts, non-committal. Miss Patel, brief closing? Anna steps forward. My lord, heritage is not served by eviction. It's served by stewardship. Miss Rosefield has the legal deed, the engineer's approval, and a transparent plan. Auction proceeds in escrow. Restoration supervised by this very court. Grant and Bray arrives with threats, altered reports, and an ever-inflating offer chasing hidden treasure. The law favors the rightful heir, not the wealthiest bidder. She sits, a hush settles thick, metallic. Judge Whitlock removes spectacles, rubs bridge of nose, speaks at last. The deed of 1951 grants subterranean ownership to the Rosefield line in perpetuity. Claimant's safety evidence is inconclusive. Respondent's engineer satisfies the court. Injunction denied. Further, I order that Grant and Bray pay respondents' costs and lodge a $25,000 security bond toward immediate roof repairs. This court will supervise escrow of artifact sale proceeds. Case dismissed. Gavel cracks like a starter pistol. The gallery erupts. Some cheer, some groan. Grant slumps, mask finally slipping anger melting into disbelief. Ravi whoops so loudly a bailiff shushes him. Emma stands frozen until the magnitude lands. Tears threaten. She feels 5 kilos lighter, as if mud slides off glittering marble beneath. Outside on the steps, flashbulbs explode. Reporters shout over each other. How does it feel to beat a developer? What will you do with the money? Emma steadies her voice. Fix a roof, pour good coffee, fund bright futures. She raises the porcelain wren for cameras. Blue glaze sparkles in afternoon sun. Grant exits moments later, face ash pale. Microphones chase him. His only reply is silence. Elise trails, but she peels away, crossing to Emma. He's filing no appeal, she says. Your deed is bulletproof. Emma breathes. Thank you for telling the truth. Elise offers a tired smile. Truth feels lighter than those binders. She nods farewell and disappears into a taxi that pulls away like a chapter ending. Ravi spins Emma on the pavement, careful of documents. Cappuccino's on me for life. Let's start with train tickets home, she laughs, dizzy with relief. They walk toward the station, afternoon sun glittering off government domes. For the first time in months, Emma's shoulders settle. Mud still clings to shoes, but above, everything glitters. Roof tiles waiting for repair, neon birds waiting to glow, a town waiting to be reminded that sometimes the small cafe wins. Sunrise rolls over Maplewick like pale gold paint, sliding along scaffold poles, glinting off buckets of primer and lengths of fresh cedar. For the first time in decades, the high street smells of cut timber instead of chip fat, of lime wash instead of diesel. Emma Rosefield stands outside the Blue Wren with a clipboard, oversized hoodie pulled over yesterday's paint-speckled braid. On her board are 3 columns, roof teams, 2, volunteer count, 41, hours until soft reveal, 12. Beside the number, she's doodled a small blue bird wearing a hard hat. It winks at her like a private joke. Ravi arrives on a borrowed e-bike. 2 sleeves of cinnamon buns skewered on the handlebars, face flushed from the early ride. We've got orchard apple Danish and the world's driest humor, he calls, braking hard. Also, the Wi-Fi router is breathing, the espresso lines are purged, and your new neon arrives at 3. My heart arrives at 3:01, Emma answers, then glances at the street. What was once a rundown row of half-empty shops now hums like a rehearsal for festival day. The barbers have repainted their pole. The chemist's window frames shine new peppermint green. Even the disused news kiosk sports bunting and an optimistic closed for refit sign. The transformation didn't start with a petition or a council grant. It started the moment Maplewick watched Emma refuse Oliver Grant's check. The town that had laughed decided quietly, then loudly, that it liked refusal better than ridicule. Across the road, Trevor McBride's taxi idles, boot open as he hands out sacks of builder's sand with unusual solemnity. Got an actual fare at past, he tells Emma, but until then, I'm manual labor. He says it like a confession, as though civic generosity might invalidate his taxi license. Take a bun, Emma urges. He does and bites into it as though proof-testing hope. At Woodward 812, the mural team arrives. Nadine Pryor and 8 teenagers from Maplewick Comprehensive, carrying sketchbooks and ladders and more caffeine than legally advisable. They fan out across the once-peeling facade. Chalk lines appear swirls, feathers, rising currents of blue. One kid, Alfie, positions his airbrush compressor like a DJ setting decks. Theme is flight, Nadine tells Emma. Bird breaking from cracked brick. Everybody gets a section. Nobody gets left behind. I know the feeling, Emma replies. Inside, the cafe is chaos with a pulse. Plumbers thread copper lines under the worn floorboards. Electricians feed new cable through old conduit, arguing amicably about load balancing. The copper espresso machine restored to a glow that borders on smug sits under dust sheets like a diva, conserving her voice for opening night. Emma ducks behind the counter, ticking tasks from memory. Test LEDs, sandbar top, refill pay it forward board. On that board already sit dozens of neon post-its. For the paramedic who never complains, for exam week nerves, for anyone who believed the joke. At 09:03, a delivery lorry from Vintage and Railway Interiors backs to the curb. Two drivers jump down, rolling out teal leather banquettes salvaged from a 1960s sleeper train. Emma swoons audibly. Ravi, clipboard now commandeered, assigns placement with the gravity of a maitre d' at the Ritz. The first hitch arrives at 10:17 when the roof membrane team radios down. Found a rotten pearl in half the ridge could go if it rains. Emma's stomach dips. She climbs the scaffold, balancing tea mugs between joists. Up top the world looks different. Hills inked green. Chimney pots like punctuation on terrace sentences. She studies the cracked timber, asks costs, times. Give me a number, she says. $600 in materials, days labor free if you feed us, the foreman replies. She thinks of the till currently $73.40 after bun expenses and of the Sotheby's advanced landing next week. Do it, she decides. Down payment? She promises vouchers for lifetime coffee. The foreman grins. Caffeine's cheaper than cash. Deal. Back on the pavement, Oliver Grant himself appears, as if conjured by the whiff of overspending. Tailored coat, measured smile. He looks at the scaffold, at the animated teenagers, at Trevor handing out screws like boiled sweets. His expression flickers envy, admiration, then resets to neutral. Place looks charming, he says, tone polite. Investors love a Cinderella arc. He produces a new letter. Double the previous figure, 350 €. You keep the mural, we brand it Heritage Coffee. The offer floats between them like a sedative. Emma sets it atop a paint tin. Meaning you pocket the Gruber tour revenue and resell cappuccinos at boutique surcharges, she parses. We'd restore authenticity, he counters. Ravi appears, paint flecked, pastry in hand. Authenticity doesn't come with a brand manual. The teenagers overhear. A collective snicker ripples up the wall. Grant's cheeks color faintly. Clock's ticking, he murmurs. But when he steps away, Emma notices the crunch of wet primer under his Italian soles. For once, he's the one leaving footprints. By noon, the high street has become an ant farm of productivity. Pensioners wheel barrows of compost for the new planter boxes. The florist Marjorie arrives with buckets of blue delphiniums. She places stems in upcycled milk bottles and kisses Emma's dusty cheek. For luck, she says. Local journalist Pilar Cruz slips through caution tape with recorder in hand. Front page feature, she explains. 3 words to summarize today? Emma thinks, hope, hammers, caffeine. Pilar laughs. Grant and Bray claim they're still negotiating comment. Emma wipes paint from her hair. Negotiations, just conversation with consequences, she answers. At 13:45, the neon installer arrives. Glass tubes curled into looping script. Blue wren. A stylized bird perches on the W, wings poised mid-beat. Workers pivoted into place. Sunlight refracts like shattered peacock feathers across the pavement. Children freeze mid-scooter. Mr. Blake, retired postman, leads a round of applause that echoes against brick. The moment the switch flips, the sign hums alive. A cobalt heartbeat steadier than any previous flicker. The street hushes. Phones rise. Emma's chest aches with something bigger than delight. Purpose, maybe. Ravi checks their live stream poll for new pastry names. Ren Wing Whirl beats Maple Wick Swirl by landslide. He chalks Ren Wing Whirl 280 onto the digital menu screen. Underneath, Emma types, Launch offer, pay it forward, wall relit. 14:30. A sudden drizzle patters, silvering newly washed shop fronts. Painters hustle tarps over wet walls. Teenagers squeal when chalk sketches smudge. Nadine reminds them that watercolors were discovered by mistake. Inside, Emma surveys the near-finished interior. Banquettes gleam. Pendant bulbs shaped like wrens glow warm. She thinks of the first day burnt beans, leaking ceiling and marvels at the alchemy of community. Yet a knot sits under her ribcage. Tomorrow is reveal day, and the till is still slender. She climbs behind the counter, sets up a laptop, and drafts the crowdfunding update. Phase 2 heritage roof beam fully replaced, neon installed, mural at 70%. Funds still needed for electrical inspection in Ravi's visa sponsorship. She hesitates, then adds a photo of the teenagers painting feathers across old brick. She ends with, "Thank you for believing a punchline could become a headline. Send." At 15:42, a council van parks. 2 inspectors step out, clipboards ready. Emma's breath stalls, license review scheduled next week, not now. They enter, survey dust, wires, open ceiling voids. Stoic faces. Emma answers questions about fire exits, allergen labeling. Mr. Blake appears with tea on a tray, social camouflage. Ravi offers high-vis vests. Inspectors scribble, murmur, depart without verdict. Emma's heartbeat climbs down from the rafters. Outside, scaffolding dismantles piece by piece, revealing the mural's full sweep. A blue wren bursts from fractured brick, wings dissolving into ribbons of story text lines donated by townsfolk. Sometimes walls break to let the sky in. Cars slow, taking photos. A lorry driver honks approval. 17 done. Sun slants low, gilding wet cobbles. Emma and Ravi drag sacks of sawdust to bins. They find Elise Morgan, ex-Grant solicitor turned Heritage Trust lawyer, waiting with an envelope. Planning board signed off your facade permits, she says, handing papers sealed with red crest. You're officially historic, Emma grins. Already felt historic. They shake hands, Dusty meets inked. As volunteers gather for end-of-day debrief, Emma climbs a milk crate. Neon halo glows behind her head. Tomorrow at 7, we open these doors, she announces. First 100 coffees free. Pay it forward wall resets to 0. Let's see how fast we can refill it. Cheers roll like a friendly thunderclap. Ravi holds up his phone. Quick game. Who traveled farthest today? A student from Brighton raises hand 2-hour train. Prize lifetime digital latte card. Applause. Trevor whistles, checks his watch. High Street hasn't buzzed like this since Jubilee '02. He pockets his last screws. Better fares tomorrow, 18:30. Workers depart. Teenagers sign mural initials. Marjorie's delphiniums drink twilight. Emma steps back inside, flips the sign to close for dreaming. The cafe is empty, but for dim bulbs and the copper espresso machine humming quietly, like a cat satisfied with renovations. She pours 2 mugs of filter coffee. She and Ravi slide into a teal banquette. For a minute, they say nothing. Only the new ceiling fan spins full rotation, silent. Ravi breaks the hush. Till's still thin, Emma nods. But tomorrow the jars refill. People don't come for finance. They come for feathers. He sips. Do you ever think about the tunnel? The painting? How this could have ended with you selling, moving to London, living quietly? Emma glances at the neon bird outside. Quiet never suited the wren. Across the street, Oliver Grant stands under a lamppost, hands in pockets, watching neon reflect in puddles. His silhouette looks smaller tonight. He tips an invisible hat, half gesture of respect, half surrender, then walks away into drizzle. Emma watches him fade. Soft defeat, she murmurs. At 20:15, Nadine texts a photo. Mural complete, floodlit. Caption, she's ready to fly. Emma replies with blue heart emoji, tucks phone away. They lock up. Outside, High Street glows with more than neon. Each refurbished storefront reflects the wren's light, a chain reaction of blue optimism. Emma inhales the damp air. Mixture of paint, pastry, and something older. Town pride rediscovered. Ravi pockets keys. Tomorrow we serve coffee to the town that rebuilt itself. Tomorrow, Emma agrees, we prove a brick wall can hide treasure, but a shared wall can build it. They walk toward the corner where scaffold shadows linger. Behind them, the blue Wren sign hums steady, bright enough to guide the first commuter home, and perhaps even a developer nursing second thoughts toward a cup of kindness that refills itself indefinitely. Monday drifts in on a quiet drizzle, the kind that softens brick edges and paints the street a deeper red. Inside the blue Wren, new cedar smells mingle with espresso and wet wool. Emma Rosefield checks the pastry case. Wren wing whirls stack like coiled clouds, then flips the neon sign from standby to welcome. The first customers are early commuters who've begun timing their trains to her opening bell. They collect flat whites and folded toasties, then vanish under umbrellas. Mr. Blake settles into the corner booth with the local paper, making a point of spreading it wide so everyone can read the headline. Rain can't dampen High Street miracle. Emma garnishes his tea with a wink. A hush rolls through the room at 9:18 and every cup freezes midair. Through the glass, a black Jaguar glides to the curb, wipers metronoming patience. Oliver Grant steps out alone. No lawyer, no umbrella, just a charcoal coat and shoes polished enough to mirror the mural across the road. He pauses, taking in the painted Wren exploding from fractured brick, the cue that wasn't here 6 weeks ago. The pulse at his temple flutters, then stills. Emma wipes her hands on a dry towel that used to be afraid of leaks. "Here we go," she mutters. The bell above the door sings a note higher than usual as Grant enters. Raindrops glitter on his shoulders. He removes his coat with careful ceremony and drapes it over his arm, as if unwilling to ask for a hook. "Miss Rosefield," he says, offering a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. "Congratulations seem in order." "Coffee seems in order," Emma replies, already grinding beans. "House blend? I'll try whatever people are queuing for." She pulls a long Americano and slides it across, foam breaking like ripples. "On the house!" Grant accepts the cup but doesn't drink. "Free coffee? Your strategy for solvency?" he asks, an echo of his old smirk. "Kindness costs less than marketing," she answers, "and lasts longer." He gives a small, reluctant nod, then sets a slim folder on the counter. The paper carries no golden crest this time, only a plain printed heading, Grant and Bray, Notice of Withdrawal. Mineral rights, air rights, subterranean claims, formally relinquished, he says. Signed and sealed. Emma opens the folder. A violet ink stamp from the land registry stares back, crisp and unquestionable. Her shoulders relax by a millimeter. Grant's gaze tours the room. The teal banquettes salvaged from a sleeper train, the copper espresso machine glinting like a trophy. Ravi behind the bar teaching 2 teenagers the correct angle for latte milk. Everything hums with a confidence the building never used to speak aloud. He clears his throat. "You've done in 6 weeks what my architects predicted would take a consortium and £3 million. I misjudged you." "Thank you for the apology," Emma says, closing the folder. "I'm not finished," Grant replies, pulling a second envelope from his inside pocket. "This is a funding proposal, no equity, no strings. My board authorized a community heritage fund. The Blue Wren would be its flagship beneficiary. Ravi, passing with a tray, slows enough to eavesdrop. Grant notices and gives him a courteous nod before continuing. Outdoor seating, apprenticeship programs, perhaps a micro-publishing imprint for your Story Slam winners. Capital you can direct however the town sees fit." Emma blinks. The room seems to tilt. "You're offering a grant?" "Call it restitution," he says. And for once the pun lands without a smile. "We damage the street's confidence. This helps repair it." The cafe's background chatter dies to a rustle of cups. Grant's offer hangs in the air like a note looking for its cord. Emma sets the envelope on the counter, but keeps her palm over it. "What's the catch?" "No catch. A public partnership is good optics for us, certainly, But the money is yours to administer through the Heritage Trust. Elise Morgan drafted the terms. As if summoned, Elise appears in the doorway, rain-slick hair tucked behind her ears, a legal pad under one arm. She gives Emma a conspirator smile. "It's clean," she says. "I resigned last month. Now I volunteer counsel for the trust. We'd oversee disbursement." Robbie edges closer. "Sounds like a peace treaty." "More like reparations," Emma murmurs, lifting her hand from the envelope. She looks at Grant. "I have conditions." He folds his arms. "Let's hear them." 1. Apprenticeship slots prioritize local teens and laid-off cafe workers from surrounding towns. 2. Half of any publishing profits fund the Maplewick Library roof. 3. You read the first children's story time yourself. No cufflinks, just a book. Mr. Blake coughs appreciatively into his teacup. Grant's nostrils flare, then his shoulders drop a fraction. "Agreed." Emma extends her hand. The handshake is brief, firm, and strangely gentle. Around them, the cafe exhales, cups resume clinking, milk wands hiss. A victory that feels like a sigh, not a cheer. Ravi emerges from behind the counter with 2 Renwing whirls. "Peace offering," he pronounces, setting one before Grant. The developer studies the bun's lemon-glazed spiral, then takes a bite. Cinnamon warmth blooms on his face, softening lines Emma hadn't noticed until now. "It's delightful," he admits. Regret tastes expensive by comparison. Laughter ripples through the room light, unforced. Elise signs the grant agreement at a side table, while Grant pulls a fountain pen from his coat pocket, the same silver instrument he once used as bait. He twirls it thoughtfully, then sets it beside the pastry case. "Keep it," he says. "Reminder to me that some signatures shouldn't happen." He stands buttoning his coat. "Council chambers are expecting us, Elise." He turns to Emma. "Thank you for the coffee, and for proving me wrong." Outside, the Jaguar carries him into thinning rain, taillights dim as closing book covers. In the window reflection, Emma notices something unfamiliar on her own face, relief tinged with empathy. Robbie slides the pen closer. "Souvenir of a soft defeat," he says. "Or a soft victory," Emma counters. She lifts the pen to the top shelf among antique teacups, a tiny museum of almost mistakes. The cafe's regular rhythm returns, but the energy feels lighter, as though a pressure valve has clicked open. Emma flips the chalkboard and writes in cobalt chalk, "Today's question: have you ever turned a rival into a partner? Tell us how Best Story wins coffee for a month." Phones rise, notifications ping. Later, during the afternoon lull, Emma finds the withdrawal folder still on the counter. Under the legal jargon, Grant has added a handwritten line, "Respect costs less." She files it in the ledger beside her grandfather's penciled promise, where it nestles without protest. At closing, the rain stops and a shy sun slides between clouds, reflecting off the mural and casting feather-shaped light across the floor. Emma locks the door and flips the sign to "Closed for Dreaming." She stands a moment in the empty cafe, listening to the copper espresso machine settle, to the neon bird hum steady blue. The space feels neither conquered nor defended, only shared. A former predator has laid down terms of peace, and the ceiling does not leak on it. Emma switches off the lights. In the darkened window, the blue wren glows above her reflection, wings spread as though recommending the view. She smiles at it, then at herself, then walks into the evening where the Jaguar's tire tracks have already begun to fade. Morning light slips through the new skylight, painting the oak counter the color of warm honey. The bustle of yesterday's grand reopening has subsided, replaced by the gentler hum of a town settling into its new routine. Emma Rosefield stands behind the espresso machine, no leaks, no sparks steaming the very first latte of the day. She hears laughter outside before the bell even rings. 2 tourists snapping photos of the cobalt mural, a delivery driver explaining that, yes, the ugly cafe story really did turn into a fairy tale. She takes a breath that smells of cinnamon and fresh varnish and taps a spoon against her mug. The handful of early customers quiets. Even the neon bird seems to lean closer. 7 weeks ago, she begins. This place was a joke people shared on the way to somewhere better. We had 20 pounds in the till, a roof that cried on sunny days, and more mockery than milk. Mr. Blake chuckles in solidarity, lifting his forever refilled teacup. Then we met a brick wall that breathed. We swung a hammer, found a tunnel, and discovered that value can hide one brick deep, just waiting for stubborn hearts. She holds up the tiny Fabergé bird the museum let her keep on loan. Light scatters across its blue enamel. We could have sold the cafe, pocketed a tidy sum, moved on. But we stayed, kept digging, kept believing. And here we are, roof fixed, mural gleaming, scholarship fund fully backed, and a neon wren that finally shines steady. The room answers with soft applause. Behind Emma, Robbie chalks today's quote on the board. Sometimes treasure hides in the wall. Sometimes it hides in you. He flips the chalk, bowing theatrically. Speaking of treasure, we need an official name for our new cold brew tonic. Options are Cloud9 or Tunnel Vision. Vote by dropping A or emoji on the tip jar screen. Phones rise, coins clink, laughter blooms. Emma turns back to her audience and by extension, to the unseen listeners she now greets at the end of every video. So here's the moral in your mug, she says. When the experts tell you your inheritance is worthless, pick up a hammer. When mockery circles like a vulture, offer it coffee and keep building anyway. Because roofs can leak, jokes can sting, but courage compounds faster than interest. She gestures to the pay it forward wall, already peppered with neon post-its. First day of school nerves, job interview at 10, free refill for someone who tried today. Kindness, she adds, is the only currency that earns while it's spent. A delivery van pulls up. Oliver Grant steps out with 3 crates of patio chairs donated, not branded. He waves through the glass, a quiet acknowledgement that even adversaries can choose better endings. Emma waves back, feeling the last knot of rivalry dissolve. She lifts her mug. 2 favors before you leave. First, tell me in the comments, what brick wall are you ready to test? Could be a project, a dream, a conversation you've dodged. Name it. Let sunlight find it. Second, if this story poured even a teaspoon of courage into your cup, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next tale. Tomorrow we meet a librarian who out-hacked a hedge fund, and I promise you'll want front row seats. The neon bird flickers once more. Out of habit, not weakness, then settles into an unwavering glow. Mr. Blake raises his teacup in salute. Robbie slides the vote tally onto the screen. Tunnel Vision wins by a landslide. Cheers ripple through the cafe, echoing off walls that remember every jeer and every miracle. Emma sets down her mug, wipes a faint line of milk from the counter, and smiles into the camera. Here's to brick walls that turn into doorways, to tunnels that turn into treasure, and to ordinary mornings that turn into second chances. Your move. The bell above the door rings. New customers, new stories, new possibilities, and the Blue Wren Café begins another day, brighter than the one before.